Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the Snowflake's Corner, episode 68, where we cover news from outside the UK. We're going to be looking at stories in Gaza currently, what's happening in some stories from Ukraine as well as America, and one or two European stories and one African story that I wanted to cover as well. Got quite a lot of news. I don't know if we'll cover it all, but we'll see how it goes at the moment. Originally I had, as you can see in the description, I had 6 stories, but I've added a 7th one because of recent developments. We also have one funny video and funny memes at the end of the show. So do stick around if you want to have a little bit of a laugh, because we need that in desperate times out there when it's very depressing out there as well. This live stream has been recorded on the 27th of May at 2025 at 6 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/ReganElite1. If you are on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I go live there. If you're here on YouTube, if you like the content that I'm providing, please hit that like button, share this across social media so others are notified, and subscribe as well there. And if you want to as well on YouTube, hit the bell notification icon on there to be notified when I upload a video or when I go live there as well. Right, let's get started, guys. I want to dive straight into the first story because I think it is a very significant one here. This story dropped only just several hours ago. So as some of you guys may or may not be aware, we've obviously had the Benjamin Netanyahu has loosened up when it comes to allowing aid into the Gaza Strip. As we know, for the past 2 months now, people have been starving. There has been malnutrition. There has been severe desperation for people to try and desperation from people to get their hands on food. Starvation. Palestinians storm a US aid facility as distribution operations breaks down. The Scandal Play scheme is a US-Israel initiative designed to bypass UN infrastructure for aid delivery and distribution in the Strip. So, as I've covered this story a bit on Rumble. If anybody's interested, you can check out some of the stories on Rumble here. On Rumble as well. Link for that's down below. But what essentially they've been, that Israel and the US are trying to do, are trying to push the UN aside. And basically, they're trying to say, no, we will distribute the aid. We're going to distribute the aid. You're not going to distribute it. We're going to distribute it. And this has not gone down very well with Palestinians, and certainly it's not gone down with the UN, because the UN body, the United Nations, and the organisations that have been distributing the aid, of course, are neutral. They're not biased in any sort of way. Their objective is to provide aid, medicine, whatever the Palestinian people need in this situation. They're not taking a side in any way, shape or form in this. However, the problem is, of course, for example, the recent events like of what happened on October the 7th with the on October the 7th, when the atrocities took place by Hamas on Israelis. Israel came out at some point, not too, I think it was like several months ago, and they accused the UNRWA, the organization behind aid distribution into Gaza, and Palestinians in particular. They accused them of working in cooperation with Hamas and what happened on October 7th. In fact, initially they denied it. They initiated their own investigation, and they found that there was some people, unfortunately, working in a way, or shape or form with Hamas. And unfortunately, this opened up a can of worms because they found there was credible evidence. Initially, my position was there wasn't any. And this has given Israel, just based on that, has given Israel all the ammunition it needs to basically say, we can't use the UN. We don't trust the UN. They supported Hamas here, so we don't need them. We're not going to trust them to do so. And this is the situation that we're coming to now. No, we're going to do it without them, and we're going to do it ourselves. Considering that it's been 2 months since Palestinians in Gaza have had food, things are going to be out of control. And you can see here, the Scandal Plague scheme is the US and Israel initiative designed to bypass UN infrastructure for aid delivery and distribution of the Strip. And I've already seen literally about 20 minutes or so before I came on here for you guys, live on Al Jazeera, there's literally masses of people gathering outside the distribution center, desperate for food, because obviously, how can you distribute it safely to Palestinian people when people are so desperate, so starving right now in there? There is no, I just don't know the right way to do it. It is a very difficult time for people right now inside the Gaza Strip. So Palestinians are clamoring for aid, and gunfire rang out in chaotic scenes as a controversial US-Israeli aid distribution scheme turned to shambles. Journalists in the besieged Gaza Strip said hungry and bereaved residents forced to stand outside a facility holding aid rushed inside because of delays, conducted a detailed security checks on recipients. So according to the Israeli army sources cited by Israeli media, Americans affiliated with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation had to be rescued once they lost control of the facility. The Israeli military denied firing on the crowd, but gunfire was heard at the scene, possible as a result of warning shots fired by American mercenaries securing the facility. And I think that's probably what they would have done. They fired the guns in the air saying, back off, back off, back off. But I think for some Palestinians, they've already lost enough lives. They've lost so much. For them, it's like, go ahead and shoot me, because at this point, I've got nothing to lose. There have been no reports of deaths or injuries so far. I just should point out that this was the last update was just under an hour ago, this report as well. The Gaza government media office has said today's events are clear evidence of the occupation's failure to manage the humanitarian crisis it has deliberately created. Establishing ghettos for distributing some limited aid is a deliberate policy aimed at sustaining starvation and dismantling society. We hold the occupation fully responsible, both legally and morally, for the collapse of food security in Gaza. And this right here, this is an example. This is, when was this a tweet? This was tweeted literally today, just over 2.5 hours ago here from Middle Eastern Eye. A breakdown of security at the aid distribution center in Rafah, southern Gaza, led to a deadly stampede on Monday after militias affiliated with America's private security company reported lost control of the crowd. And again, like, I don't blame them. I don't even need to play the sound yet for you to see just how significant of a problem this is here. And you can see the desperation of people here. It's really a terrible situation, but I don't know what is the right way to deal with this situation. Good evening, Joe. Hope you are doing well. What is the right way to get distribution to them? Because how can you do it in a way that's safe and humane that won't lead to people getting out of control? It should be done by the UN. It should be done by the United Nations. There's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do it. But clearly, you can see that how many people have marched and gathered to the distribution center. It's absolutely insane. And as I've always said, my heart goes out to these people. But this is the situation that is happening in Gaza right now. This is what's happening right now. And the UN needs to be allowed back control of the aid distribution inside it. But this is different parts of inside Gaza right now, just desperately waiting for food, and it's a terrible situation. And the chaos comes as starvation looms across Gaza following an Israeli blockade that on all aid that began on March the 2nd. So it's been March the 2nd, and it will almost be 3 months. So just under 2 months since aid has started to be allowed in. Just under. Earlier, before the breakdown of order, Middle Eastern Eye observed a group of men carrying large cardboard boxes walk away from the cameras along a gravel path flanked by fences, an area resembling a militarized zone. These were the first images released by the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, showcasing what it said was the launch of its food aid operation in the Gaza Strip on Monday. However, Palestinians on the ground and across social media had questioned the authenticity of the operation. Some criticised it as a staged scene to encourage others to engage with the new aid distribution, amid growing criticism of the GHF. The scandal plagued the organisation is a US-Israeli initiative designed to bypass the UN infrastructure for aid delivery and distribution in the Strip. What is the point of this? Let the UN do its job. GHF emerged in the public eye early this month as Israeli officials began briefing the UN and international NGOs about their new detailed plan to take over and restrict aid distribution in the besieged Strip. Senior humanitarian officials and aid organisations have condemned the GHF, arguing that the new mechanism is unnecessary. Instead, they say Israel must stop observing the existing UN-led system and allow aid to flow unimpeded. Yeah, this is it. And the argument that Israel has is they will simply turn around and say, well, we don't trust you. Because we can't trust you, and they're gonna accuse the UN of distributing aid to Hamas as well. Mohammed Basim Dassir, a television cameraman and multimedia editor, said the men featured in the initial photos were unlikely to be genuine aid recipients, suggesting the images were released for a particular purpose. By close examining the photos, translating and analysing them as raw information, it becomes clear that they were staged, Dahar told Middle East Eye. The type of clothing the young men are wearing does not suggest that they come from tents they have been living in for nearly 600 days. They're also wearing branded shoes that are simply not available in Gaza. Like, if you're going to stage something, at least get your details right. Furthermore, their faces are deliberately concealed. The photos were taken from multiple angles, yet none of them show their individual faces. Again, that just points to Dahiya noticed that the images lack the presence of large crowds, which would be expected at any genuine aid distribution site. No official notice was issued to residents of Gaza City, the central area, or Khan Yunis in the south, informing them to collect aid parcels under their names or ID numbers, he added. Therefore, I believe the individuals showed in these images are either drivers or people involved in securing the aid operation of the Israeli site. However, just hours later, new images emerged showing Palestinians queuing for aid after the foundation commenced a actual distribution. The photo showed hundreds of people lined up in one of GHS distribution sites near the so-called Morag corridor in Rafka in the southern Gaza Strip. At the site, people saw the sign that read, "You are now in a humanitarian zone. Do not approach the beach or residential buildings." Recipients are required to enter through an electronic gate, where they are met by Arabic-speaking individuals wearing vests, masks, security, before being handed a box according to those who collected the aid. The parcels reportedly contained basic food items, including rice, salt, wheat, flour, beans, and canned goods, pasta, and cooking oil. When they started talking about the new Israeli mechanism and how it is largely opposed by the United Nations and Palestinians, we assumed the first round of aid distribution would be designed to generate interest in collecting the parcels. Ismail Masharida, a resident of Gaza City, told MEE. She said she initially expected the parcels to contain items such as cheese or meat, food that has been absent from Gaza for months. To draw large crowds, this, she suggested, would allow the Israeli authorities to photograph the scene and promote the narrative that they were facilitating aid access. But it turns out they didn't need to persuade anyone, she said. They're distributing very limited aid, but they know they are so starved that even if they hand out plain bread, people will still queue for it. Israel sealed off Gaza's borders on March the 2nd, blocking the entry of all international aid and goods, including basic food items, hygiene supply, and fuel. On the 1st of April, all 25 bakeries supported by the World Food Programme across the Gaza Strip shut down due to a lack of wheat, flour, and fuel. Maniska said her family will not go to collect the food parcels. Besides the fact that we reject the principle entirely, even if we wanted to collect the aid, we would have to travel more than 25 kilometers round trip, sold to MEE. And you could get hit by an airstrike during that time as well, but there's nowhere for them to be saved. With the fuel shortages and Israel's ban on cars crossing Rashkan streets from Gaza to the southern area, transportation is nearly impossible. The trip isn't worth it. Residents noted that while the parcels included items that had disappeared from Gaza's markets due to the complete border closure, such as wheat and flour, they still lack essentials for children, most of whom suffer from malnutrition, including milk and nutritional supplements. GFS is an Israeli-backed organization established in early 2025 to manage a new model of humanitarian aid distribution to the Gaza Strip. It was incorporated in Switzerland in February 2025, with a US-based counterpart also registered. The organisation has presented itself as an independent and neutral body aiming to deliver aid directly to Palestinian civilians through a network of 4 secure distribution sites in southern and central Gaza. This is absolute bullshit. It is not independent. The United Nations is an independent, should be the ones distributing the aid. The problem is not distributing the aid in any way, shape, or form. We all know that, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. The problem is Israel. It's always been the problem. They are the ones who are not allowing the aid to come out, to be given out. We don't. This is all Israel just trying to limit and starve them even more than they need to. Like SRS and UG Solutions have faced scrutiny regarding the legitimacy and transparency. Critics, including Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid, have suggested that those entries might be shell companies designed to obscure Israeli government's involvement and funding in the aid process, which is exactly what I believe it to be. Jao says the point of this is not to allow UN in to see what conditions people are, and allow Israel to blackmail the civilian population into submission. They are preparing the population to be under military rule or worse. they're all, yeah, they want to take control of the Gaza Strip. They want to take over the Gaza Strip. That's the long term plan. But Netanyahu's whatever they do, Netanyahu, the time on Netanyahu is ticking. That is for sure. In Gaza, local businessmen and logistic companies firmly reject participating in the distribution mechanism. And in an official letter addressed to GFS partners, Safe Reach Solutions (SRS), the Gaza-based company Skills and Quality Group stated it would not take part in the project, citing serious concerns about the nature of the initiative and the absence of clarity of whether it was genuine humanitarian. It's not humanitarian. Out of our moral and national responsibility, we therefore refuse to participate in any initiative that could, directly or indirectly, be used to harm the Palestinian cause or pave the way for its erasure. The letter read. In another statement, the Al Qasaduga family in Palestine publicly disavowed its members, Mohammed Mohsen Al Qasaduga, after his name was linked to the US company involving with the GHF. The family condemned the role in what they call an inhumane scheme to tighten Israel's siege on Gaza under the guise of humanitarian zones, and declared this involvement as complicit in an engineered starvation and the stripping of Palestinian dignity. Many of the people who went to collect the aid would normally reject such a mechanism imposed by the Israeli occupation on principle. Anis Mudden, a resident of Gaza City, told ME. But the occupation has deliberately pushed them to this point, leaving them with no other option to either submit or die of hunger. 29-year-old said the Israeli mechanism has clear motives to project an image of the occupation is distributing humanitarian aid to avoid criticism. Yes, this is exactly what they're trying to do. This is them saying, look, we are actually distributing aid. Look, here's the photos. Here's the videos of us distributing aid to people. You're saying we're not distributing it. Here's us doing it. But they only want to show you what they want to show you, not showing you what's actually going on. As long as there is independent journalists in there, and believe me, Israel are trying to make them disappear in Gaza, because we know that's what they're trying to do allegedly, they want to project what is actually happening in the Gaza Strip, not what is really happening in the Gaza Strip. We are aware and understand the policy which is essential about sustaining the state of hunger and keeping people dependent on a weekly food parcel, we added. But we cannot tell those who have been starved and have nothing to eat or nor to go. Hunger is stronger than awareness. Yeah, unfortunately, people are going to go down this path one way or another, guys, which is a real shame. This is the situation that is happening. The UN are being pushed out of this, and it's going to be completely controlled by the US and Israel. And it's a terrible situation. I just don't know. I don't know what's going to change, if anything's going to change. They've got a tight grip on everything, Israel. And this is the thing: Israel needs someone needs to break the bond that Israel breaks Israel in some way, shape, or form here, because we can see what's happening here. This is all about painting a picture, as it says in the article there. It's about submission. That's what it is. Trump Riviera, yeah, indeed. Continuing on from Gaza, this is a bit more UK related, but it's still important nonetheless. So from Al Jazeera, more than 800 lawyers, judges call for the UK sanctions on Israel over the Gaza war. So Israel breaches of international law in Gaza risk setting anarchy loose upon the world, the signatory says. When you've got 800 lawyers and judges calling for UK to sanctions on Israel, that really does apply a lot of pressure. But whether or not the Labour government in the UK actually does anything, I don't know. We know that there has been pressure has been mounting, not just from Labour MPs, but from Conservatives and other political parties as well. I'm not sure what the Conservatives, well, some Conservative MPs, but I'm not sure if they're all entirely on board with things, because they're kind of a bit more in bed with Israel, I would say, rather than Palestinians there. But when you've got this many pointing it out, it really does say a lot here. So the United Kingdom must impose sanctions on the Israeli government and its ministers to take steps to prevent and punish genocide in Gaza, according to a letter signed by more than 800 lawyers, academics and former judges. The open letter to the Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Monday called on the British government to take concrete action to halt the serious violations of international law being committed by Israel. Genocide is being perpetrated in Gaza, or at a minimum, there is a serious risk of genocide occurring, the letter stated, adding that war crime against humanity and serious violations of international humanitarian law is also taking place. It urged Starmer to respond swiftly as urgent and decisive action is required to avert the destruction of the Palestinian people of Gaza. Letter quoted recent comments by the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who expressed Israel's intention to take control of all of the territory of the Gaza Strip and conquer, cleanse, and stay until Hamas is destroyed. And by the way, once Hamas is destroyed, it's not going to be the Gaza Strip, it's going to be Israel's. The land is going to belong to them, and the Palestinians are going to be pushed out. That's the plan. The letter signed by senior legal figures, including former Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judges, released noted a recent statement by the leaders of the UK, France, Canada that the suffering in Gaza was intolerable, welcoming the indication that the government were preparing to take action. The letter called on the British government to adhere to its fundamental international legal obligations and use all available means to secure an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, and to ensure the urgent, unconditional and unimpeded resumption of aid to Palestinians. To achieve this, it calls on the government to impose sanctions on Israeli government ministers and other civil and military figures reasonably suspected of involvement in unlawful conduct, and to review existing trade ties with Israel, impose trade sanctions, and suspend a roadmap for a closer Israel-UK partnership. It's very hard to do that when there is Israeli lobbying in British politics. There is Israeli pro-Israeli groups, Zionist groups, if you want to call them that, who are lobbying the Labour government. And there are obviously factions within Labour's in the Labour Party that are supporters of Israel, who will obviously be trying to have them try to keep Labour quiet about it as well. Whether or not they will or not will be a different matter there. Well, several countries have said they would boycott the Eurovision Festival. Israel participates, but they were all there. Yeah, I like the Eurovision stuff. I'm not interested in Eurovision whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned. But you're not gonna force the organization to take Israel out of it, unless all those countries actually boycott Eurovision. You're not doing anything about it. None of them boycotted it, so it's just no point. There's no point having that discussion. If you're actually going to boycott, but don't actually threaten to and not do it. The UK suspended negotiations of a new trade deal with Israel. Suspended negotiations of a new trade deal with Israel last week. Leicester also called on the UK to confirm it would adhere to its obligations to execute arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court in relation to Israel's actions in Gaza. The ICC has issued arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza, while the country also faces a genocidal case at the International Criminal Court of Justice for war crimes against civilians. We in the UK cannot expect peace unless we fulfill our obligations under international law, Sir Aim Moses, a former appeals court judge who signed the letter, said in a statement. It is an exercise in futility for a government to say it upholds the rule of law if it then does nothing to demonstrate it. Another signatory said Israel's unrelenting breaches of international law pose a threat to the very future of international law itself. Imagine a world without rules, anarchy loose upon the world, Conor Geckley, a professor of human rights law at the School of Economics, said in a statement. These lawyers know what that would look like, and because they do, they are desperate to avoid it. A previous open letter from UK lawyers said last year that the UK was breaking international law by arming Israel. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 54,056 Palestinians and wounded 123,000, according to Gaza's Ministry of Health. The government's media office updated its death toll to more than 61,700, saving thousands missing beneath the rubble and presumed dead. And I do believe that the number is a lot higher. Those numbers are believed to be a lot higher, at least 20,000 more, because obviously that's only what they've counted, not what's actually missing. Like, they are starting to go in the right direction in the UK. But it's not enough. It's not enough. We know it's not enough. And the thing is like the people who say, what's the point of UK taking this position? Well, it's about the moral side of this. It's not just a case of what we're seeing is absolutely abhorrent, what Israel are doing, but just the moral point of view. The frustration is that it's taking forever for Labour to kind of push this way, because the thing is that the reality is that it's upsetting people that they're sitting on their laurels and they're not calling this out on Israel. That's the problem. They're not actually calling Israel out enough on it. It's just taken so long. Murky waters. These are the UK Parliament. Yeah, it is, because you have to remember that there are politicians who are being paid by are paid lobbyists as well, being paid under the table by Israeli organisations, not directly but indirectly through other means as well. So you have to remember that as well. So we're moving away from Gaza. Of course, like I say, I will try to keep up with it as much as I can, both on shorts and on Rumble videos. We may talk about it more on Friday as well, guys. So moving to the Associated Press here. Why is this? Hold on a second. Sorry, for some reason I thought the video. I don't know why my screen is not sorted here. Right, there we go. I don't know why it wasn't here. This from the Associated Press. As Ukrainian POWs die in Russian prisons, autopsies point to a system of brutality. It's been a while since I've seen Inside Russia. I'm generally interested to see Constantine, if he's done any news over regards to this or not. Because he obviously has information inside Russia. But does this story surprise me? It sadly does not. With the way that Russia has been treating its people with regards to recruitment and calling them up to war, especially young men, it's been very, very brutal. And Ukrainian soldiers, obviously, this does not surprise me that they've been brutally beaten, smashed, or lost their lives while in Russian prisons, dying and defending their country. And at the same time, while all this is happening as well, Ukrainian children are still missing that have been taken by Russia, been taken to Moscow, out of sight, out of reach from all the Ukrainian parents who don't know where their child is, don't know what's happened to them, and may never see them again. I mean, they've promised to return them at some point, but I don't buy it at all, you know. And it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. All these people. Everything will be all right. Ukrainian soldier Sergei Hescherov said this so often during brief phone calls from the front that his wife and 2 daughters took it to heart. His younger daughter Oksana tattooed the phrase on her wrist as a talisman. Even after Hescherov was captured by the Russian army in 2022, his anxious family clung to the belief that he would ultimately be okay. After all, Russia is bound by international law to protect prisoners of war. When she finally came home, though, it was in a body bag. A Russian death certificate said the 59-year-old died of a stroke. By Ukrainian autopsy, and a former POW who was detained with him tells a different story about how he died. One of violence and medical neglect at the hands of his captors. Horozhov is one of more than 200 Ukrainian POWs who have died while imprisoned since Russia's full-scale invasion 3 years ago. Abuse inside Russian prisons was likely a contributing factor in many of these deaths, according to officials from human rights group. The UN, the Ukrainian government, and the Ukrainian medical examiner who had performed dozens of POW autopsies. The officials say the prison death toll adds to evidence that Russia is systematically brutalizing captured soldiers. They say forensic disparities like sorry, I'm mispronouncing his name, I know. Like Horozhov's, and the recipients of bodies that they are mutilated and decomposed, point to an effort of cover-up alleged torture, starvation, and poor health care at dozens of prisons and detention centers across Russia and occupied Ukraine. Russian authorities did not respond to requests for comments. They had previously accused Ukraine of mistreating Russian POWs, alleging that the UN has partially backed up, though it says Ukraine's violations are far less common and severe than what Russia is accused of. I will just say this, it's not right if Ukraine are doing it just because what of Russia are doing it. They need to set a better standard. I understand how Ukrainians feel about Russia and what the Russian soldiers do. I do understand that, but inside those Ukrainian prisons, they must restrain themselves. They must restrain themselves. Hrabowski joined the Ukrainian army in 2019 after he lost his job as an office worker at a high school. When the war began 3 years later, he was stationed with other soldiers in Mariupol, an industry port city that was the site of a fierce battle and far from his home in the central Polivia region. On the 10th of April 2022, Hrabowski called his family to ensure them that everything will be alright, and that was the last time they ever spoke to him. 2 days later, a relative of a soldier in Hrabowski's unit called to say the men had been captured after Mariupol fell to Russia. More than 2,000 soldiers defended the city, becoming Russian prisoners. Soon his family got a call from the International Committee of the Red Cross, which confirmed that he was alive and officially registered as a POW. Guaranteeing his protection under the Geneva Conventions, they were told that means everything is fine. Russia has to return him Hrabowski's wife, Helena, recalled. In August 2022, she received a letter from him that addressed her by her nickname. My dear Helena, wrote, I'm alive and well. Everything will be alright. Desperate for more information, his daughter, son Asanga, 31, scored Russian social media accounts where videos of Ukrainian POWs regularly appeared. Eventually, she saw him in one, looking gaunt and missing teeth. His grey hair was cut very short, framing gentle features and now partially covered by a beard. In the video, likely shot under duress, Hrabowski said to the camera, I'm alive and well. But if you look at him, you could see it wasn't true, Asana has said. The truth was dismal, said Oskar Hoshkov, a 48-year-old Ukrainian POW who was detained with him. He lived in the same prison barracks as Hrabowski started at the fall of 2022. Over a period of months, he witnessed him absorb the same severe punishment as every other POW in the Kamikovsky Correctional Colony in southwest Russia. Everyone got hit, no exception, said Koskos, who was reciprocated to Ukraine in February as part of a prison swap. Some more, some less, but we all took it. He endured months of chest pain while in captivity, and even then the beatings never stopped, he said. And sometimes they began after his plea for medical care, which were ignored. Towards the end, I could barely walk, said Hrabowski, who was diagnosed with tuberculosis once back in Ukraine, an increasingly common alignment among returning POWs. In a 2024 UN report, they found that 95% of released Ukrainian POWs have endured systematic torture. Prisoners described beatings, electric shocks, suffocation, sexual violence, prolonged stressed positions, mocked executions, and sleep deprivation. This conduct could not be more unlawful, said Danielle Bell, the UN's top human rights monitor in Ukraine. The report also said that some Ukrainian POWs were mistreated by Ukrainian forces during their initial capture, including beatings, threats, and electric shocks. The abuse stopped once Russian POWs were moved to official Ukrainian detention centers, the report said. Hrabowski was physically strong and often outlasted younger prisoners during forced exercises. Hrabowski recalled, but over time he began showing signs of physical declines, dizziness, fatigue, and eventually an inability to walk without help. Yet, despite his worsening condition, prison officials provided only minimal health care, Hrabowski said. These are fingerprints taken. The body of a Ukrainian prisoner of war returned to Russia at a morgue in Kiev in June last year. In a bright, sterile room with sour, sweet smells of human decomposition, Anya Padri performs autopsies on Ukrainian soldiers I can't say that word, guys, reciprocated by Russia, as well as civilians exhumed from mass graves. Hundreds of bodies zipped up in black plastic bags have been delivered in refrigerated trucks to the morgue where she works in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. Those who die in battle are still wearing military fatigues, and we often have obvious external wounds. The bodies of former POWs are dressed in prison uniforms and are often mutilated and decomposed. It is the job of Padri and other forensic experts to piece together how the soldiers like Hrabowski died. These reports are often only reliable information on the soldier's family gets, and they'll be used by Ukraine along with testimonies of former POWs to bring war crime charges against Russia at the International Criminal Court. No, there's not. What can we do to Russia that we're not already doing? What we need to do, in all seriousness, is those who are trading with Russia. We need to start applying sanctions on those on those. Well, obviously you can't do China, But there are other countries where they are getting weapons that they are still trading with. Those countries that are still doing them with Russia, sanctions need to be applied to them. The body of a former POW recently examined by Pradri had an almost side fracture on the right side of his skull that suggested that the soldier was struck by a blunt object, a blow potentially strong enough to have killed him instantly or shortly after, she said. These injuries may not always be the direct cause of death, Padley said, but they clearly indicate a use of force and torture against the servicemen. Earlier this year, Amnesty International's widespread of torture of Ukrainian POWs in Russia, and it was reported especially critical of Russia's secrecy regarding the whereabouts and conditions of POWs, saying its refusal to grant rights people groups or health workers access to its prisons, leaving families in the dark for months or years about their loved ones. Of the more than 5,000 POWs Russia has reciprocated to Ukraine, at least 206 have died in captivity, including more than 50 when an explosion ripped through a Russian-controlled prison barracks, according to the Ukrainian government. An additional 245 Ukrainian POWs were killed by Russian soldiers on the battlefield, according to Ukrainian prosecutor. The toll of deaf POWs is expected to rise as more bodies return and identified, but forensic experts face significant challenges in determining the cause of death. And in some cases, internal organs are missing. Other times, it appears as if bruises or injuries have been hidden or removed. Ukrainian officials believe that the mutilations of bodies is an effort by Russia to conceal the true cause of death. Extreme decomposition is another obstacle, officials have said. They hold the bodies until they reach a state where there's nothing can be determined, said Pedro, spokesperson for the Ukrainian government agency in charge of POW affairs. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the prompt of exchange of POWs must be part of any ceasefire agreement, along with the return of thousands of Ukrainian civilians, including children forcibly deported to Russia. A major prison exchange between Russia and Ukraine took place over the weekend. The Associated Press interviewed relatives of 21 Ukrainian POWs who died in captivity. Autopsies performed in Ukraine that found that 5 of the POWs died of heart failure, including soldiers who were 22, 39, 43. 22 years old. 4 others died from tuberculosis or phenomena, and 3 others perished, respectively, from an infection, asthenia, and blunt force head wounds. Padri said cases like these and others she has seen are red flags suggesting that physical abuse and untreated injuries and illness likely contribute to many soldiers' death. Under normal or humane circumstances, these would not have been fatal, Padli said. In one recent report, corridors said individuals had been electrocuted and beaten just days before dying of heart failure or extreme inebriation. Other autopsies noted that their bodies show signs of gangrene and untreated infections. Everything the returned prisoners described, we see the same on the bodies, Padley had said. Months into Horosky's detention at the Kameral Sholi prison, and after his daughter saw him in the Russian army social media videos, his health deteriorated significantly, according to Horosky. But instead of being sent to the hospital, Horosky was moved to a tiny cell that was isolated from the other prisoners. Another Ukrainian captive, a paramedic who was assigned to stay with him. It was damp, cold, no lighting at all, recalled Horosky. He died in that cell about a month later, Horosky said. It was 20th of May 2023, according to the Russian death certificate. The Horosky family didn't learn that he had died until more than 6 months later. When a former POW reached out, then in March 2024, police in central Ukraine called a body had arrived with a Russian death certificate bearing Horosky's name. A DNA test confirmed it was him. An autopsy performed in Ukraine disputed Russia's claim that Horosky died of a stroke. It said he bled to death after a blunt trauma to his abdomen and also damaged his spleen. Horosky's body was handed over to the family last June, soon after he was buried in his hometown. To honour him, Horosky's wife and his older daughter Yana followed Asana's lead and tattooed their wrists with the optimistic expression that they had drilled into him. Now we have an angel in the sky watching over us, Helena said. We believe everything will be all right. As someone who sorry. try not to get emotional, guys. As someone who really does, who talks about, who uses quotations a lot, and how powerful they are. I think it's incredibly touching that they all got the tattoos of that quotations on their wrist after he fell. But this, unfortunately, all this, it just does not surprise me. And that's the thing that really upsets me the most. It does not surprise me. We know that this is the kind of treatment that's being handled by Palestinians in Israeli prisons as well. It's the exact same treatment. When we know that. We know that because we talked about it. So it does not surprise me that Ukrainians are being treated in this way. And because Russia are to an extent in isolation, they can kind of carte blanche do this. There's not going to be accountability. I don't expect any accountability whatsoever. But because they're Ukrainian, because they've stood up for themselves, they've lost their lives. They've been scarred, brutal, and all sorts, as been described in there. Good evening, Leapskin. No, Jal's not alone. There's other people lurking. They just don't fancy talking, which is totally fine. It's all right. It is abysmal, yeah. This is common Russian tactics: beatings, non-nutrition food, and lack of water. People die of heart attacks and organ failure. Yeah, it does not. Yeah, it's common, unfortunately. Even to their own people, like, you know, we know how Alexei Navalny. We know how he was treated, the former Russian opposition leader. We know how he was treated. Russians did not surprise me before the war, and now they just confirmed it. First goal, Emil never trusted Ivan. Never trust Ivan. I want to stress that this is not all Russian people. That it is the Russian soldiers. I don't believe that all Russians the Russian people are like this. I believe it's something that they are trained. The soldiers are trained like this. But that is it is a brutal, sad reality of what's happening there, I'm afraid. I was going to go to a funny video, but instead I'm going to go to a different I'm going to go to a next topic instead, because I don't really want to go into a funny video after something like that, if I'm honest, guys. But if you are finding what we're covering here informative or helpful, please hit that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. Share and subscribe. It would be much helpful indeed. Now, I know you're not saying that. I didn't imply that you were saying that, but it's easy to get. It's easy to get that interpretation. It's easy to get that interpretation when a government treats people a certain way. It's easy to interpret everyone in the same category. And that's something that happens that people on the right and far right tried to do. They try to smear everyone as the same, but they're not. I know where you're coming from, but you know where I'm coming from as well. I'm not implying that you're saying that in any way, shape, or form. But the Russian prison officers and Russian soldiers and how they are training them. Let's move on from this story, guys, and let's hope that this war comes to an end sooner rather than later. So, going from the New York Times over to America here, it's getting more difficult, obviously, for Americans. So, Republican crackdown on aid to immigrants would hit U.S. citizens, apparently. The Trump administration efforts and its GOP tax bill aim to restrict benefits for families that include immigrants without permanent legal status. So one of the things that this Trump administration does not like doing is like giving handouts. They want to make it very difficult for people to gain any kind of benefits or entitlements that they need in order to live or survive, and especially to those who aren't citizens in the US. Or those who may have some kind of permanent legal status. They want to make their lives as difficult as possible. If they can't deport them, if they can't get rid of them, they'll make their lives as difficult or as hell as they possibly can. And this is exactly what they're going to do. And anybody who's aiding or anybody who is helping these people as well, they will target in some way, shape, or form, because they want to hurt these people. They want to hurt anyone who is not a white US citizen. they will try to hurt them in some way, shape, or form, or try to demeanor them in some way, shape, or form. So let's read this story. So Donald Trump has vowed to end what he calls a waste of hard-earned taxpayers' resources by cutting off federal benefits for undocumented immigrants and ensuring that funding goes to American citizens in need. And what evidence do you have that this is definitely happening? Are we the only species on the planet who turn on each other? No, but we're no, I wouldn't agree with that. No, I would say some animal species do turn on each other as well. Administration officials said that they would root out illegal aliens, I hate that word, who are living in federally subsidized housing. The Agriculture Department has ordered states to enhance immigration verification practice used to determine eligibility for food stamps. And House Republicans just passed a tax bill that would limit certain immigrations from accessing Medicaid and Medicare, a popular tax credit for parents, federal financial aid, among other benefits. The actions amount to an aggressive attempt to curb immigrant families' use of safety net programs. Although Republicans say that they want to remove incentives for people to enter the country illegally, unauthorized immigrants generally do not receive federal benefits given efforts to chip away from their eligibility. Immigration experts and advocates for immigrants' rights say that the changes would instead largely be felt by children who are US citizens, but those parents who are undocumented or immigrants who are authorized to live in the United States, such as refugees or people granted asylum. Yes, because if you are born in the United States, you become a US citizen. This is why he's trying to end birthright citizenship, change the constitution on the birthright citizenship, because what's happening in the US and what happens in lots of places is when you go, if you are born in a country but your parents are actually from a different origin, you become a citizen of that country. And according to most countries have that advocacy, but they want to change that. They want to say, no, you're not a US citizen just because you were born here. No, you were born here, but you were brought by your parents. Technically, you're from that country. You're not from the US. This is the position that the Trump administration wants to take. And so, yes, so technically they are going to starve US citizens, just not your typical white average US citizen. 12% of American children, or about 9 million people, are citizens with at least one non-citizen parent. Children with at least one immigrant parent are twice as likely to live in poverty than those with native-born parents, according to a 2022 report by researchers at the Boston University School of Social Work. In the name of wanting to take a harsh policy stance against immigrants in many different ways, the reality is that they're going to be punished as citizens and other immigrants that have been eligible in the past. Shelby Gonzalez, the vice president of the immigration policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a left-leaning think tank. Some of the most substantial changes will come with the tax bill, a centerpiece of Mr. Trump's economic agenda that's House Representative narrowly passed on Thursday. I think it was by one vote. I think it passed as well. If approved by the Senate, the package would boost the child tax credit as much as $250,000, but limit its availability to parents with Social Security numbers. Current law allows children who have Social Security numbers to receive the benefit, even if the parents have only individual taxpayer identification numbers, which are issued to non-citizens for purpose of paying taxes. The changes will make roughly 2 million children with Social Security numbers no longer eligible for the benefit, according to an estimate from the Joint Committee on Taxation. Some procurements of the change argue that the child tax credit currently allows undocumented immigrants to benefit from taxpayer money, and such funding should be shut off even if their children are citizens. In the real world, the money is going to the unlawful alien parents, and they're not obliged to spend money on the children, said George Fishman, a senior legal fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, a think tank that favors restricting immigration. Others who say the potential changes would undermine the well-being of children who are US citizens in immigrant households. Families where someone doesn't have a Social Security number are already ineligible for earned income tax credit, which provides a significant boost to low-income households. Researchers found that children who receive similar cash benefits go on to have a better health, earn more, and commit fewer crimes later in life. Going forward, they are the adults of this country, said Doris Alvarado Garcia, a professor of social work at Boston University who studied immigrants. Do we want to disinvest in them now so that their education and health and everything deteriorates? Then we have to face that in a few years from now. The tax bill would also tighten eligibility for federal health insurance programs. Immigrants who are authorized to live in the United States but are not legal permanent residents would no longer qualify for Medicare, unless they fall under certain exemptions. The package would also bar those immigrants from receiving subsidized health insurance on marketplaces set up by the Affordable Care Act. Those changes could affect refugees, immigrants, asylum-made people with temporary protected status. It would also deny access to marketplace plans entirely for people brought to the United States as children who are currently protected under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival policy. Some of those immigrants have a path to obtaining a green card, but not all of them do, such as foreigners granted immigration parole or temporary protected status. The tax plan will also trim Medicaid expansion funding by 10% points for status for states that use their own money to cover low-income undocumented immigrants, which could penalise 14 states that provide health coverage to children regardless of immigration status, according to KFF, a health policy research group. So this will also be targeting, as it says there, going after democratic states who are trying to be fair and try to give a helping hand to those who need it. They would be punished as well in this. Yes, Joe, the big beautiful bill, as Donald Trump, as they called it. Most of the US used to be northern Mexico and French territory, and they still hate the Mexicans, says Joe. Yeah. That was used to be. States could choose to stop covering undocumented immigrants and preserve their federal matching funds, or they could keep that coverage and take the hit to their federal reimbursement, which would mean less money to go around for US citizens who depend on Medicaid. Researchers also found that people who don't have health insurance are more likely to rely on emergency rooms for preventable care. Hospitals must provide emergency care regardless of patients' immigration status, which they can receive reimbursement through emergency Medicaid. So if they're going to need to look to other programs or just to cut the funding for undocumented immigrants, which is going to have an impact on everyone in that family, including citizens' family members, said Wendy Centuries, the Director of Immigration at the Center for Law and Social Policy. The bill would also end a requirement for states to provide Medicaid benefits to applicants during a grace period in which their immigration or citizenship status is being verified, which could deny coverage for those who don't have easy access for documents like a passport or birth certificate. And the tax bill would cut off federal tuition assistance and food stamps for nearly all immigrants who are not citizens or permanent residents. Alex Nowraj, the Vice President for Economic and Social Policy Studies at the Carlo Institution, a liberation think tank, said he supports efforts to curtail immigrants' access to federal benefits, but he said the changes would not result in a major budget savings. Given that non-citizens receive just 3.5% of all welfare and entitlements, the budget deficit cannot be plugged by kicking non-citizens off welfare benefits, Mr. Norad said. That being said, they should be removed because a dollar saved is a dollar saved, and that's good enough. And much rather they kick immigrants off welfare than kick immigrants out of the country. So we're going to just push more people out onto the street. Then that's what we're going to do. Yeah, let's just cut off more life support. That's definitely going to help, isn't it? Although the tax bill is still working its way through Congress, many federal agencies are trying to restrict undocumented immigrants from accessing programs. And in March, the Housing and Urban Development Department said it would partner with the Homeland Security Department to ensure that federal housing programs will not benefit undocumented immigrants over citizens. The Small Business Administration has barred lending to companies with any amount of investment from people without social security numbers, constraining credit for American-born entrepreneurs. Yeah, so they're making sure that any kind of benefits entitlements now is going to go to American citizens first and foremost. But it should be that way anyway, to be honest. Because that's really the norm everywhere, isn't it? Own citizens are prioritised. But that's just that's the unfortunate reality, really. Many housing authority directors and housing policy experts accept the Trump administration to propose a rule that would ban families with any undocumented members from subsidizing housing, even if their children are U.S. citizens and eligible for the benefit. The administration proposed a similar rule during Mr. Trump's first term. They did not put it in place. The Housing Department found at the time that in doing so could displace 55,000 children who were in the country illegally, and that more than 108,000 people receiving assistance lived in a household with at least one undocumented member. Children in immigrant families who are often US citizens would be harmed both by the threat of family separation and risk that they may become homeless, said Tanya Border, a senior counsel at the National Immigration Law Center. Other agencies that run benefit programs have reiterated that undocumented immigrants are not permitted to receive funding. The Labour Department sent a letter to states last month warning that they could lose federal funds if they allow unauthorized immigrants to receive unemployment benefits. The Social Security Administration has also expressed its full support for Mr. Trump's efforts to ensure that undocumented immigrants did not receive Social Security benefits. The Trump administration has also applied pressure on Democratic states that aid undocumented immigrants, including starting an investigation into a California program that has provided cash assistance to some undocumented immigrants and revoking waivers to state colleges and universities that use federal money to provide some services to unauthorized immigrants. The efforts to target immigrants could create a chilling effect, making people hesitant to enroll for benefits over fears of their family members could be deported if they share their information with the government, said Vali Lavka, a senior policy analyst at the Migration Policy Institute. Yeah, and that people aren't going to be more... Well, that's already happening. Even before this, that's already happening because of how they've been treating immigrants. Even if you're eligible and you can get those benefits, you're also letting the state or agency know that there is an unauthorized immigrant in your household, Ms. Loati said. The rhetoric essentially discourages people from using public benefits. Yeah, that's essentially what they're doing. Good evening, Jane Wallace. Hope you're doing well. This is exactly what they're going to do. This is by cutting off the supports and benefits. Oh, you're undocumented, are you? Oh, we want to have a word with you. ICE would like to have a word with you. And then they throw you in a van and send you to El Salvador. Because that's what they want to do. Yeah, if you try and claim benefits now and the government gets, and ICE gets swoop of it, they'll come for you. If they can find a reason to deport you, they will do so. They will still find a way to do so. Even though the courts have been problematic for them, they will still find ways around them. Throw them in the detention centers all in different places up and down America before shipping them out somewhere. I think some got sent to a country in Africa recently as well, a week or two ago as well, I heard. This is a false problem, sounding more and more like Brexit. Illegals cannot technically access welfare. They can buy medical services, but not welfare. Anything to make life difficult for immigrants. This is anything to make their lives difficult, make life hell. If you are a white American citizen, you are fine for now. But if you are not an American citizen, if you are not white, you can be targeted. If you don't have legal status and you're undocumented and you don't have any documentation or anything that verifies you can be there in the US, you will be detained, you will be put in detention, and you will be deported back to whatever country you came from. That is what they are doing. I heard an American lawyer explaining this. Yeah, Legal Eagle is the best YouTube channel on some of this stuff. Legal Eagle, guys. YouTube.com/Legal Eagle. They do very, very good stuff explaining things down in terms of interpretation of the law of what the Trump administration can and cannot do. But they're still bypassing a lot of things there. Healthcare card says jail needed to receive welfare or any state benefit. Yeah, it's a rough for them. So guys, we've gone over an hour already. I'm not sure if we'll get through the last few articles, but we'll see how it goes because I still want to do the funny memes. But I hope you guys enjoy this funny video to kind of break the ice a little bit. We need a bit of laughter to kind of just remind us there's a bit of, just to kind of break the ice sort of thing because of everything that's happening right now. But I hope you guys get a laugh out of this, especially if you're a golfer. This is from Foil and Arms on their YouTube channel of When Your Friend Watches the Masters. So do any of you watch the Masters? Not really me. I'm not really a golf person. But maybe some of you might enjoy this one.
Hey,
Why do you look ridiculous?
oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm getting into golf.
Oh, because the whole Rory McIlroy and the Masters.
Yeah, which figures, I'm not getting any younger, and golf is a game that looks kindly upon the older gentleman. Or lady.
Depending on what year your rule book was written in, right?
Well, hold on, golf is a lot more inclusive these days.
Really?
You go into any clubhouse, there's a captain and a lady captain who are equally insufferable.
That's great.
Yeah, I've even got myself a golf coach.
How's your swing?
We're not there yet, still working on the basics.
Oh, like your grip or...
Wealth accumulation.
What?
If you can master that, you can really succeed at the game.
I went golfing once.
Yeah, you spent more time in the sand than David Hasselhoff. Ow!
Is that supposed to be a joke?
No, it's low quality golf banter. It's one of the most difficult parts of the game to master.
Over 18 holes, that's really going to great.
Oh yeah, it wears you down.
You got a Claire's later?
I know, I gotta hit the gym. Coach has me deadlifting 200 kg.
You can't lift that.
No, I can't, but a huge part of golf is having a bad back. And just look in any clubhouse.
You're really serious about this whole golf thing?
They've even invested in a fancy set of clubs.
Oh, can I see them?
No, apparently they have to remain in the boot of my car at all times. Could you smear this in a perfectly straight line across my forehead?
What is it?
Well, it's a skin lightening cream.
What? Why?
Yeah, I'm trying to get that golfer's tan, you know, I just don't want to look like an idiot in the changing rooms.
Right. Where are the drinks?
Couldn't get them.
Why not?
I was at the bar, I was about to pay, somebody coughed. It completely threw me.
Okay, well, I'll get them, I guess.
Oh, thanks, man, yeah. So it's 30 yards to the bar, there's a dog leg to the right, and just try to avoid the hazard.
What hazard?
It's my wife and kids.
What?
Yeah, a huge part of golf is avoiding your family.
Hey, we've got 5 shows in Dublin in May.
Oh, I was supposed to pause it and then switch over. So they are actually on tour. I'll just show you the tour. Actually, this is their on tour at the moment in Australia. There's the dates and New Zealand. And they've got extra shows in Dublin. Well, the Dublin ones have already passed, but yeah, they're doing some tours next month over in the Australia and New Zealand if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, do check out Fire and Arms YouTube channel. They do great stuff there. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, I'm not a golfer. I've never been into golf. I think that I'm not a fan of the sport. The clothes and the hats they wear are a bit odd. It's very much it very much comes across to me as a rich man's game. And the sport is not helped with Donald Trump being a big fan of the sport either, just for reference as well. I detest golfers and golf courses, says Joe. Well, it's not our sport, but some people do like it. Let me put it that way. And just a reminder, guys, if you guys, if you want to support the Democratic Penguins Republic, you can do so by leaving a super chat down below as well. Try to reach a goal. Try to reach the goals every day. If you can support, would be greatly appreciated as well. There, all that any funds that are made goes towards supporting the Penguins. Is greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, do consider becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. If you become a YouTube member, gets you access to members only post. You also get custom emojis that you can use in live chats and premiere videos as well. And whenever you comment on any of my videos, you always get a comment back from me as a YouTube member. And if you're a top tier member, you also get early access to additional content as well. I should also remind people as well, and I'll put this in if I remember, I'll try and get this in a post out as well. I've recorded daily content both on Patreon and Rumble this week. That is free for both watch, so do click the links down below for Patreon or for Rumble. They're in the descriptions down below. Do check them out if you guys are interested as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let's go to the next story. This one I don't think we're going to spend too much time on because it's like it's not really that like it's a story. It's a storm in a teacup story, really. So Macron dismisses the viral video showing the apparent shove from his wife Brigitte. Like, here's the thing. The thing is we honestly don't know what goes on behind closed doors with things. And Macron has been French president for a very, very long time. And, you know, what happened. I've seen the video and it's like, sometimes, you know, there are times where you and your partner don't always get along. And even at the top level, these things happen. Now, does this mean there's going to be a breakup between the two? Probably not. I think if the wife came out and tweeted saying that it's just there's nothing to it, I would have been a bit more inclined. But because it came from Macron has dismissed it, saying it's not a big deal. It would have been better if Brigitte had came out on this. But So the French President Emmanuel Macron has dismissed a viral video showing his wife Brigitte pushing his face away as they disembark from a plane in Vietnam for the first leg of their Southeastern Asian tour. And this is on the first leg as well. Speaking to reporters in Hungary on Monday, Macron addressed the clip directly, pushing back against the speculation it sparked. He says, I quote, "There is a video showing me joking and teasing my wife, and somehow that became a sort of geoplanetary catastrophe, with people coming up with theories to explain it," the president said. Macron acknowledged the footage was genuine, but criticised how it has been weaponized. The video are all real, and yes, sometimes people tamper with them, but people are attributing all kinds of nonsense to them. The short clip shows the aircraft doors opening with Macron appearing in the doorway. Seconds later, both of Brigitte Macron's hands reaching out from each side and press against the president's face in what looked like a sudden shove. Macron appears momentarily surprised, but quickly regains his composure and waves to the press outside. As the couple descend the steps, Macron offers Brigitte his arm, which she does not take, opting instead to hold the railings. The Esslers initially denied the incident on the plane before later moving to downplay its significance. The couple were merely bickering, a source close to the president told CNN affiliate BFM TV. It was a moment of togetherness, according to it, at least a source. It was a moment when the president and his wife were unwinding one last time before the trip began, playfully teasing each other, the source told CNN on Monday. No more was needed to feed the meals of these conspiracy theories, the source added, saying pro-Russian trolls were quick to spin the movement into controversy. Macron has been the forefront of efforts to agree a coordinated European response to defending Ukraine following Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. The incident, however, comes as Macron faces another swirl of online disinformation. Earlier this month, the Illies dismissed it as fake news, a viral claim amplifying the Kremlin's official that the French president was using cocaine aboard the train to Kiev alongside German Chancellor, French Merkel, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Is that the best the Russian state media got? The German Chancellor, the Keir Starmer, and the French president, they're all snorting cocaine on the train. Is that the best they've got? I'm just like, what are they going to make an AI video of them snorting cocaine on a train to show this as well? Your presidents and chancellor are drug dealers. Oh, that's just funny. The rumor traced back to pro-Russian accounts, falsely claimed a crumbling tissue Macron picked up was a cocaine bag. Italy posted a rebuttal online with the caption, "This is a tissue for blowing your nose. When European unity becomes inconvenient, this information makes a simple tissue look like drugs." The Kremlin's foreign ministry spokesperson Maria Zavkusa fueled the claim, suggesting the scene was part of a wider European dysfunction. French officials condemned the campaign as part of an ongoing efforts by Moscow to weaken Western unity on Ukraine and manipulate peace discussions through false narratives and social media manipulation. That's exactly it. It was a fucking tissue, says Jane. Of course it was a tissue, for crying out loud. No, they're snorting cocaine, guys. That's actually what they're doing. They're snorting cocaine. Oh, Jesus, God, they're God. They are pretty funny sometimes, the lengths that they will go, the Russians. The lengths that they will go. Sticking with Europe, guys, this one is from Euronews. Why is it? Hold on. Apologies, it's not over enough. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to... Oh, right, that's why it's like that. I see. Okay, it's cut off a bit on the top there, apologies. But the headline is, EU countries are losing patience as Hungary is grilled on Pride March and the rule of law. So, Hungary, of course, is the basically that guy in the group that you don't really want to talk to, don't really want to associate with, but is still part of that group. And it's kind of like, can you just go in the corner? Like, you're still part of our group, but we don't want to talk to you unless we absolutely have no other choice. Like, I know you're part of the gang, but you're just kind of like, you're kind of a problem for us. Like that's what Hungary are when it comes to the European Union right now. And the thing is that I don't agree with any premises that Hungary should be kicked out of the EU. What should be done is that the EU has power over Hungary, and they should be making things difficult for Hungary. Apply pressure, oppose some sanctions, make life difficult for Hungary. That's what they need to do. Like, say EU countries losing patience, do something to Hungary. Like, the thing is, you can't kick them out. So punish them. There are ways they could do some certain sanctions. They could reduce the amount of funding that they get. There's lots of things that they can do to make life hell for Hungary. And then when Orbán, God forbid, finally gets kicked to the curb, and someone else is in, someone who's a bit more central, then they can restore funding and say, look, the problem wasn't Hungary, the problem was your leader. They can do something about this. The penalties for Hungary have already been discussed regularly, so in the RTIPI report here in Portugal this weekend. Do it. Just do it already. Like, don't flaff about with it. Just get on with it, is the message that I have. So several EU member countries are demanding strong EU action on Hungary after what is seen as a rule of law backsliding. But Hungary says the political hysteria surrounded the meeting. EU ministers meeting for the General Affairs Council in Brussels have begun a hearing on the rule of law in Hungary under the framework of the EU's Article 7 process, as patience wears thin over recent legal initiatives in Budapest. Viktor Orbán's government's self-styled Spring Clean initiative, a draft transparency law targeting foreign-funded media and NGOs on the ban of the Budapest Pride, which are among key concerns that are set to be raised in the hearing. Ahead of that meeting, 20 member states published a joint declaration denouncing the ban on Budapest Pride March, claiming it violates EU law. We are highly alarmed by these developments, which run contrary to the fundamental values and human dignity, freedom, equality, and respect for human rights as laid down in Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union, the declaration has said. Letter recalls that the new Hungarian legislation allows fines to be imposed on participants and organisations of the Pride event, and will also allow the identification of participants with AI smart camera systems. We call upon Hungary to reverse these measures and to ensure the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all its citizens are respected and protected, thus complying with its international obligations, it read. The declaration was signed by Austria, Belgium, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, Slovenia, Sweden, Spain, Cyprus, Malta, and Greece. The signatories also call on the European Commission to make full use of its rule of law toolbox if Hungary does not reverse this law. Hungary's EU Minister, János Borica, rejected the criticism on arriving at the meeting. There is no such thing in Hungary as a pride ban. At today's hearing, I will explain to my colleagues the constitutional and legal framework. I hope after this discussion, my colleagues at the table will walk out a more nuanced view of the Hungarian legislation, Borica has said. Yeah, okay, sure. The Article 7 process began in 2018 when the European Parliament called for Hungary to be sanctioned because of an alleged rule of law violations, especially in the field of justice and media freedom. The Council had discussed the issue 7 times subsequently, but has never taken the step of triggering the next stage of the Article 7 process, in which member states would be called to vote on sanctions. Critics also fear a draft Hungarian bill titled Transparency of Public Life, which was tabled in the Budapest Parliament on May the 13th, would offer the Hungarian government sweeping powers to crack down on press and critical voices in civil society. I mean, come on. Like, it's just so blatant now. The European Commission has asked Hungary to withdraw the bill, saying that if adopted, it would constitute a serious breach of EU principles and law, according to the Commission's spokesperson. Sweden's EU minister voiced concerns about backsliding on the rule of law, transparency, and a crackdown on civil society and LGBTI rights as she entered the meeting. We have had 7 years, 7 hearings, and I will be very clear today that this cannot just continue unless we see a complete new attitude from Hungarian side today. I think it's time that we consider the next steps, as this is getting pointless to continue, Sweden's EU minister Jessica Rodriguez had told reporters. The first phase of the Article 7 process has been ongoing for a relatively long time, so no one can accuse us of not being patient. German's EU Minister Gunther told reporters, adding that at a certain point we have to make up our minds about what is next. I can tell you that my colleagues' patience is disappearing day by day, he said. Hungary's Borica said that political hysteria surrounding the meeting, but added that Hungary was ready for dialogue. What dialogue needs to be said? You're making life difficult for people in Hungary. On Monday, EU diplomats and ministers will not be called for the deployment of sanctions under Article 7 against Hungary on Tuesday because they lack the requisite majority. Well, then get the majority, is my response. Get the goddamn majority. So frustrating. 300 million euros already frozen, says Joe. Well, clearly that's not enough. and being fined for the funds frozen to pay the fines, hence no money for Hungary and very annoyed Hungarian citizens with Orbán. Yeah, they need to apply the pressure even more. They need to apply the pressure even more. This is getting ridiculous. Like, we know there's discontent in Hungary amongst Viktor Orbán and his party, but they need to apply that pressure even more. They need to apply it more before it gets to a point where Hungary ends up exactly like Belarus, because that is the path they're heading down, a subject and a pawn of Russia. There is still time to stop this. There is time to turn this around. But the EU need to apply pressure now. They need to stop dwindling. And the countries that are not on board, they need to talk to them and apply pressure on them to saying, hey, this is what's happening. Put the evidence in front of their faces. Action needs to be taken now, not yesterday. The last story I've got for you guys before we go to our funny memes is from Africa News. A very interesting one indeed. And I generally want your thoughts on this, guys. So Nigeria is scrapping the controversial bill making voting mandatory. So I want to read it before I give my thoughts. So following a backlash from lawyers and right groups, Nigeria has scrapped a controversial bill that would have made voting mandatory. It had proposed a 6-month jail term or a $63 fine for eligible voters who failed to cast their ballots. The bill sailed through its second reading. 10 days, but a government spokesperson said decided to withdraw it following consultations with a broad spectrum of stakeholders. For recent years, Nigerians have been increasingly reluctant to go and vote. Turnout in national elections has steadily declined, with the 2023 presidential polling recording a 27% turnout, the lowest since the country's 1999 return to democratic rule. The House of Representatives Speaker, who co-sponsored the bill, said it was introduced with the best of intentions. Abbas Tolkien said he had hoped it would bolster civic engagement and strengthen Nigeria's democracy. But some rights groups had described the move as both draconian and unconstitutional. They said the moment citizens are forced to vote, the concept of free and fair elections collapses. Lawyers, for their part, said it would be logistically impossible to prosecute millions of Nigerians who may decide to boycott local or national polls. Around 20 countries worldwide enforce compulsory voting. So, so here's the thing: like, every country is different when it comes to voting. But the problem is that, and I think you guys agree with me, Nigeria is not a perfectly democratic country. It has its corruptions and it has its problems, like many other African countries. I don't like what was this here. Where was that highlighted? It had proposed a 6-month jail term. 6 months in jail if you don't vote. I mean, it's just like, come on. Like, it's a bit harsh, you know? Like, are you really going to do that? Like, really? And $63 fine, like what they should, like, the thing is, I'm all for encouraging people to vote, but I don't like tying their hands down as well. Like, it's down to the governments and the political parties and to win back hearts and minds, to convince people to vote again. They need to restore democracy to the country, to show that they are on the right path. Forcing people to vote is not going to fix the issue. Like, even if we made mandatory voting here in the UK, still a lot of people would try to avoid voting. There is a part of me that does want everyone to have that vote, to have their say, but I don't. So I'm not somebody who's 100% against mandatory voting, but I am against this concept of people getting fined or thrown in jail for not voting either. If that makes sense. Because I want people to have their say, even if they don't want nothing to do with politics. So that's kind of that's why I brought up that I'm looking at this story, because part of me feels like for me this comes across as desperate. But yeah, only 27% of turnout. That's really, really bad. That shows the direction that Nigeria is going, and they need to be looking at themselves in the mirror. Whatever political parties and whatever governments they have, and the parliament, they need to look at themselves and see, what are we not doing right? Well, clearly there's corruption. Clearly we're not listening to its people. Clearly we're not providing the people in Nigeria what they need in order to earn their votes. Because clearly that is the problem here. That is the issue. like a part of me does agree with this to boost civil engagement, but again, how is it free and fair elections if you're forcing people against their will to go to vote? This is the problem with it. A bit extreme, methinks, says Jal. It is a bit extreme. It is a bit extreme to impose 6-month prison sentence on people who refuse to vote. That's not democratic. Like, I'm in favor of encouraging and pushing people. Like, I just don't want people to be thrown in jail for not voting. Like, I would do mandatory voting, but not like fine them or throw them in jail. I just think that's just try to push and encourage more people to vote. Try to do it in a way that is not undemocratic. But then again, there isn't a way. Is there a way you can do mandatory voting without it being considered undemocratic? I'm not sure there is, because you're forcing. I'm not sure there is, because you're kind of forcing people against their will to vote, even if they don't want nothing to do with it. So that's kind of the position of it, isn't it? Yeah. So guys, we have come to the end of the live stream, but before we do, we've got our funny memes, guys. We've got 5 funny memes here. Now the question is, the real question isn't these funny memes. The real question is, can I get a laugh out of you guys that are still here with me, who have been here since the start? That is the question. Can I get a laugh out of you guys with these funny memes? Let's find out. We've got 5 to go through. I'm going to drink my drink, and we'll see how it goes. More carrot and less stick, says Jane Wallace. Okay, here we go. Don't use laser engravers for non-related work purposes. Me uses laser engraver for non-work purposes. Such a waste of laser engraver. The Pikachu meme. How to double your money. You can thank me later. There it is. Your money has literally been doubled. All you need is a mirror, guys. All you need is a mirror. You didn't think of that one, did ya? When people ask me which is more important, food or love, I don't answer because I'm eating. Me checking the electric bill. Please don't be high. Please don't be high. Please don't be high. The electric bill. After half an hour trying to figure out this crazy haircut, I realized it's a coconut tree behind him. Do you see the coconut tree? That's a very good one. I like that one with the coconut tree. So there's literally a coconut tree behind him, and it looks as if there's hair spiking out all over the place. Anyways, I hope you guys got a bit of a laugh out of that anyway. For there, I just don't get memes, said Leishkin. Not everyone does. Not everyone does. But we always try to do on the Snowflake corner. This live stream particularly, we always try to do funny memes to try and get a bit of different differentials there. Jal with a question mark. That did not work for you. Okay, looks like I need to do more funny memes work there. So guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along. Thank you for those who have been here since the start. It is greatly appreciated. Obviously, no money today for the Democratic Penguins Republic, but that's okay. Hopefully tomorrow's show, tomorrow's live streams will bring something there. Just a quick reminder before you go. Geoscopes, I believe, is starting at 7:30 with Graham Hughes and Bola Hatman. I believe, not 100% confirmed, on Politics Social. At 8:30, cross fingers, he's live streaming tonight. Max Robspear at 8:30 will be a live stream there. Don't miss that. I will be attending that one for sure. And also tomorrow morning, if you guys want to, guys, I'm doing another Good Mornings live stream. I'll be talking again about where I went next on my holiday. So if you guys want to check that out and get your quote and the weather report and what's happening in the news in the morning. You can join me for another Good Morning for an hour at 8 a.m. as well. And then join me in the evening, tomorrow evening, for the Snowflake Watch. We'll be watching and reacting to clips and videos online for that. So thank you guys for that. So hopefully you guys can join me for that. Just before I go, I just have one last thing to say. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Just click that join button down below. You can also check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.